Hi folks, Tim Kitchen here from the ANZ Adobe Education Team, and it's wonderful to be able to present this webinar. Let me just share my screen and say hello to Molly too, who's going to be moderating. Hi Molly, how you going? You're off
I'm well,
mute.
thank
There we
you.
go. We're off.
Yeah,
Terrific.
here I am. I'm well, thank you, Tim. It's good to see everybody. Thanks for joining.
Good. So let's just show you what the topic is. And it's video editing made easy with Adobe. We're going to be looking at Adobe Express, and we're going to be touching on Adobe Premiere Pro as well. So it's almost like one extreme to the other. But before we get started, let's do our official welcome. Thank you for joining this weekly webinar series from the ANZ Adobe Education Team. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we gather and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We honour the wisdom, knowledge and artistic expressions that Indigenous communities have shared with the world. Their contributions to the arts and education continue to inspire and enrich our lives. Through creativity and education, we strive to build a future where all voices are heard and celebrated. Whether you're just getting started or looking to deepen your skills, these sessions aim to provide hands-on tips, classroom examples, and expert insights to help teachers make the most of Adobe's powerful creativity tools. If you would like to workshop along with the presenter, we encourage you to use two screens or two devices, one to view the presentation and the other to access the software. This avoids constantly flicking between windows. If you do miss any content, note that you can always refer back to the recording. Please use the chat feature to ask questions or share comments, and most importantly, make the most of this professional learning opportunity from Adobe. Now it's over to the Adobe Education Team. This guy sounds a lot like that guy. Now what I'm going to start, I'll just stop sharing for a moment because I just want to make a declaration here. I believe that video is now a literacy. I know if you're an English teacher, you might be thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure. But when I started this job at Adobe, which is about 13 years ago now, I was saying that video is becoming a literacy. And now I'm declaring, and I have been for a little while, to be honest, that video is now a literacy. And a lot of that is because of YouTube, really. And the more we can encourage our students to create quality videos, the better communicators they're going to be, the better opportunities they're going to have to be communicators in any sort of industry. And that's why we as educators should be encouraging video as a literacy. And so every time you're setting an assignment, no matter what subject it is you teach, see if you can provide an opportunity for your students to add a little video component to that assignment. And we're going to show you how simple that is to do with a program like Adobe Express. But of course, there's no limit to the video production with Adobe, because if you're finding that Adobe Express has limitations, which it does, and you're wanting to go to that next level, we've got Adobe Premiere Pro, which is used by Marvel Studios. It's used by Channel 9. It's used by the ABC. It is the industry standard for video production, and very likely you've got access to it at your school. I'm going to go and share my screen again, and I'm going to play a little documentary that I created a few years ago. I won't play the whole thing, but the link is there. And for those who are with us live, Molly's going to throw the link into the chat if you want to watch the whole thing. But this is a documentary I did a few years ago as video was becoming a literacy, to explain what it was like years ago to make video compared to what it is today. Video literacy is the art of communicating through moving images. Its history goes back to the 1890s, during the silent film era that fascinated audiences for decades with the concept of going to a theatre to be informed and entertained by stories through images that move. The cinema began to move into people's homes in the late 1920s with the invention of the television. But it wasn't until 1956 when the first TV show was broadcast in Australia, just in time for the Olympic Games in Melbourne. Making stories for film and TV back then involved expensive film cameras and splicing equipment that literally cut lengths of film not required and spliced important sections of film together with a form of glue or tape. In the 1960s, filmmaking enthusiasts were using battery-operated 8mm film cameras with film cassettes that could be sent away to be processed into film reels. They could be projected using projectors like this. Editing still involved cutting and splicing, and in the early 1970s a magnetic strip could be added to allow for audio recording and syncing with the filming. In the mid-1970s, the VHS, which stands for Video Home System, was invented by the Japanese. And in the US, Sony invented the Betamax system. I remember households and schools debating which format they should use. VHS ended up winning that format war, and the old Super 8 domestic film camera was replaced by the VHS camera and recording system. During the 1970s and 80s, film and TV companies gradually moved from film-based cutting and splicing to what is called non-linear editing, where footage from the camera is captured onto a computer system for editing. This process became possible for domestic and school use when technology like firewire cables allowed cameras to easily be connected to computers to capture footage and audio in real time. It was a time-consuming process that required computers with lots of processing power and storage, which were not common in schools back then. In 1999, Apple released the first version of iMovie and made it a standard application with the Mac operating system, and almost overnight, digital video editing became commonplace in schools and in homes around the globe. In 2005, YouTube was set up as a video sharing platform and was soon acquired by Google. Within a year, more than 25 million videos were being uploaded to YouTube each day. In 2023, YouTube has over 2.7 billion monthly users with over 80 million subscribers. These days, more than a quarter of the world's population uses YouTube every month to be entertained and informed. As a global population, on average each day we consume 1 billion hours of video content on YouTube, and over 500 hours of footage is uploaded. Thanks to YouTube, video is now considered a literacy. In 2007, Apple launched the iPhone and the smartphone revolution began. It wasn't long before just about everyone had a digital video camera in their pocket. Along with the smartphone came a range of video editing applications like Adobe Premiere Pro, allowing more ways for everyone to enhance their video literacy skills. In the early 2010s, the big camera makers like Sony and Panasonic started replacing tape-based cameras with cameras that stored data on digital memory cards, allowing not only for higher resolution recordings, but also faster and more reliable transfer of video data from the camera to the computer for editing. Serious video editors were using digital video editing software like Apple's Final Cut Pro until they changed the look and feel of the application in 2011, and many moved to Adobe Premiere Pro, which was not recognized as industry standard back then, but now has become the tool of choice for filmmakers, television networks, and video producers around the globe. And what's really amazing is that the Adobe Premiere Pro that's used by the big filmmakers like Marvel Studios is the same as what schools have to access. For the average teacher and student out there who is not really interested in a high-end professional video editing application like Premiere Pro, the good news is that there is Adobe Premiere Rush, which is part of the Adobe Creative Cloud suite of applications, a cut-down version of Premiere Pro. And there is the very simple to use Adobe Express, which can produce amazing results, and all Adobe Express requires is internet access and a browser. And best of all, it's free of charge for any K-12 school around the globe. Video literacy has come a long way from silent films to the digital age and into the palm of our hands. Today, it's a powerful tool for expression, for education, and for entertainment. It continues to evolve, shaping how we communicate and understand the world. Video is now recognized as a form of literacy, and thanks to Adobe Express, it's a tool that anyone can use to enhance communication and creativity in any subject area and any workplace. Premiere Pro is fine and it's great, and I love it. In fact, people often ask me, what's my favorite Adobe application? I say Premiere Pro, because I love the fact that I can work with all types of media in the one bit of software, whether it's moving images, still images, audio files, and I can bring them all together to create a story. But we can do that with Adobe Express as well. And Adobe Express as a video editor has become more and more powerful over the years. In fact, that video that you just saw, all of the content, all of the graphics, all of the images I got from Adobe Express. I got from Adobe Stock via Adobe Express. And that's one of the huge benefits of Adobe Express, is you've got a direct link to that repository of millions of royalty-free images, thousands of royalty-free videos and thousands of audio files. And so what I tend to do as a filmmaker, as a video producer myself, is I tend to get all of my assets and or most of them. If I'm not making them myself, I'll get them from Adobe Stock, and I'll do some animations and some special effects in Adobe Express rather than opening up a beast like Adobe After Effects, which I know is the ultimate, and I know it's the industry standard for visual effects, but gee, it's time consuming and I keep forgetting things. And so I'm much comfortable in Adobe Express, but I must admit, I do stitch my whole films, all my videos together with Adobe Express, because I tend to find that's a lot more functional because I'm used to it. So let's have a little taster of Adobe Express as a video editor. I'm going to jump into the K12 version of Adobe Express. For those of you who are not in K12, it just looks a bit different in the K12 version. It's so much easier because I can just scroll down and look for create a video, and I'm suddenly in the video side of Adobe Express. If you're in the non-K12, you probably will need to go to the plus symbol and then go into the video side, and you can find it there. But to start things off, there's a little known app in the Creative Cloud called Character Animator, which is also one of my favorites. We've got a version of Character Animator in Adobe Express. It's this section here called Animated Character. I'm sure many of you have seen it before. When you open it up, there are 320 characters that you can manipulate and make come alive with the power of just your voice and AI. Now, you may not see them straight away, like it's taking a little while for the thumbnails to appear, but as you click these little boxes, you'll see what they look like, and then eventually they'll start to come up. And so for the sake of time, I'm just going to quickly choose, in fact, I'll choose one of my favorites. I'm going to go to the category called Professional People, because one of my favorite characters is Dr. Applesmith. I've used him for many years. He's also part of Character Animator too, and I've used him through there. There he is, Dr. Applesmith. And what I like to do is make the character, make sure I can see the whole character on the stage. So I'm just going to make him a little bit smaller. And there's a new zoom in effect on Adobe Express. So I always try to have a little bit of room at the top and a little bit of room at the bottom. So if I want to use that zoom in effect, I can do that without losing the character in the shot. A quick little tip, folks. When you first go into a character, there is a background there by default. And if it's just a quick video you want to make, and you've already chosen like a still image background that you can bring in, or one of these still image backgrounds that you've got to work with, then you can do your recording and then you can export it as an MP4 video without needing to go into do any editing. That's quite possible. But what I'm going to recommend you do with yourself and your students is actually have a transparent background. And when you do your recording now, you'll be forced to actually go into the editor mode. And that way you can then bring in your own backgrounds and then build a story with the power of Adobe Express. All right, Molly, I'm going to put you on the spot. So open up your camera, Molly. There you go. Still awake. Excellent. I haven't bored you to tears or sound asleep. I know you've had a busy day. Molly, you're going to help me with this. We're going to do a little story about why video is a literacy these days, as I'm claiming. So help me out, Molly. What do you think Dr. Applesmith can say, like a little short, sharp introduction to this story? What do you reckon?
Well, it would... I know you are. Don't even have time to chat GPT it or co-pilot it, I should say. Tim, well, I do think it is a literacy, and because it's a form of communication. So video is a great way and very accessible and very inclusive form of communication. So I'll start somewhere
Start with
around there.
So video is a, say that again, video is a?
Video is a great mode of communication.
Great mode of communication. All right, let's do that. Keep it short and sharp and simple. And that's another little tip for you folks. When you're doing these little animated videos, keep them short and sharp. You can have lots and lots of them, but keep them all relatively short. Another tip, click the enhance speech button because that throws in some noise reduction filters. It also adds to the quality of your recording as well as you build it. So video is a, say it again for me, Molly. Video is a
great mode of communication.
Excellent. Here we go. And I'm going to put on my Dr. Applesmith voice as I do this. I'm going to hit record, click a.
While that's loading, Tim, I lost your audio. I don't know if it's just me. Oh, there you are. Might have just been me that lost your audio.
No, it's Express gets very jealous if it has to share the microphone with Teams, or Teams gets jealous of Express. So we do lose audio when you do live demos. I found that out firsthand myself.
Yeah,
that's okay. We'll hear your great work in just a second.
You will. And in fact, the AI is taking over at this point, and it's quite good because it listens to the phonics and it changes your lip syncing according to the phonics. So while that's happening, I'm going to throw in Character Animator because this is the application that this part of Adobe Express is based on. And Character Animator is a little known app. In fact, I was having a look at some stats about what are the most popular apps in a particular K-12 system that we look after. And I couldn't believe that Character Animator was right down there. But when teachers find out that they've got it, it becomes one of the most popular apps. So if you've got access to the Creative Cloud, do a search for Character Animator because it is so much fun. There's a starter mode, there's a pro mode. The starter mode has a bunch of characters built in straight away. And Dr. Applesmith isn't one of them in starter mode, but I'm going to go to Bill. Bill's another one of my favorites. And there's no AI required for Character Animator. What you can do is literally as you're moving your head, it's moving. So it's real-time animation. And as I blink, it's blinking. As I lift my eyebrows up and down, if I didn't have my glasses on, it'd be better. If it's not exactly right, we can always calibrate it. So it's calibrate. And now it should be a bit better. And if I can go and click record, again, I'll get 3 seconds. Oh, good day, it's Bill. And I've got to tell you, video is a wonderful form of communication. So it's now, without any AI, I can bring that back. Did you hear that, Molly? Was that working or was it? It was working then. All right, I'm going to hear it back. Oh, good day, it's Bill. And I've got to tell you, video is a wonderful form of communication. And you're hearing that okay, Molly? Just as you disappear from the screen. Good,
I am too. Yeah, all good.
What we can do now is we can just grab these gestures and just drag them into the timeline. So I've got Bill waving here, and then maybe I'll get him to put his arms up in the middle of this little story. And then at the very end, I'll throw in a love heart. And so literally within seconds, I take the playhead back to the start, hit the play button. Oh, good day, it's Bill. And I've got to tell you, video is a wonderful form of communication. So within a few seconds, I've built this video, which is good enough now to save and put into a PowerPoint deck or into an Express deck and then share it that way. Or what I could do is I could change the background. I could bring in my own background or have a neutral color background, and maybe if I was in Premiere Pro, key out that color so it's just the character and then replace the background with something else. Lots of options for you. If I did go out of starter mode and into pro mode, you get a lot more features. And it can start to get a bit complicated here, but there are some really cool things like we can do whole body tracking rather than just the face. That's pretty cool as well. I won't go too much into that right now, but let's have a look at what we've created previously with Adobe Express. Now that the AI has taken over, I'm going to go in and...
Oh, hello, it's Dr. Applesmith here, and did you know that video is actually a really great way of communicating?
So there's my little character. Now notice I can't download this, just like I said earlier. If I did have a background there, I could download it as an MP4 video straight away, but it forces me to open in Editor. And as I'm doing that, we're now in the video editing side of Adobe Express. I have a stage and I have a timeline. And if I go to this play button here, I can play what we've got so far.
Hello, it's Dr. Applesmith here.
So you get the idea. I'm going to move my playhead. My playhead, I can scrub to the forward and the back. This is a nice way of introducing the concept of timelines and scrubbing, which is a common term used in video editing on any video editing package. I'm going to make Dr. Applesmith a little bit smaller, position him down to the bottom right-hand corner. And I'm thinking it'd be good now to have a video in the background. So I'm going to go and search Adobe Stock. So by going to the Media tool, and what I'll do is I'll just bring up my pointer so that you can see where my cursor is at all times. There we go. So I'm going to this tool here called the Media tool. And when I activate the Media tool, it gives me access to Adobe Stock. So I've got my millions of photos, thousands of videos, thousands of audio files that I can bring in, all royalty free, and ready for you and your students to work with. And when you're signed in with a K-12 version, well, it's a K-12 filtered version of Adobe Stock. So nothing inappropriate's there. Because, to be honest, just between you and me, with no one else listening, if you went to Adobe Stock outside of K-12 and you typed in something inappropriate, well, you might get something inappropriate, because Adobe Stock is a professional repository of millions of photos that are used by the modeling agencies and advertising and all sorts of things. Sometimes there are images that are inappropriate for students to be working with. So we've filtered them all out and we've just given you a K-12 friendly version. So that's all good for those of you who are K-12 teachers. I'm thinking I'm going to go to videos and I'm going to search for video production. Let's see what comes up. I haven't done this before, so I'm just going to do a bit of a get. 397 videos of video production. Most of them seem to be of Premiere Pro working, which is fine. And you can see some professional video editors. As I hover over them, you get, that's the one I used in the production. There you go, in the film we just saw. So maybe I have done this before. Now, as you hover over them, you get a sense of what they do. And I'm thinking I might just stick with this one for the moment. So I'm going to click on that one. Well, there's a new feature. Add as layer on canvas, add as scene in sequence. Wow, new feature. Well, in this case, I do want to add it as a layer on the canvas. I don't want to be starting a new scene because I want this to be layered within this scene. And to get it as the background, I could scale it and make it fill the screen, but it's quicker to go to this button here called Fill Video. By clicking that button, it now fills the screen perfectly for me. But my character has been lost. So I need to go to my layers and drag my character up above as the top layer. So my background is layered behind. And now when I hit the play button.
Hello, it's Dr. Applesmith here. And did you know that video is actually a really great way of communicating?
And what I'm thinking I might do here, I'm going to trim that. In fact, I'm going to trim it so that halfway through the scene, we can bring in another video. The reason why I'm doing that is there's a rule in video production called the 7-second rule. The 7-second rule is all about keeping the attention of your audience. If you've got an image going for more than 7 seconds, you will start to lose your audience. I know that sounds really sad, doesn't it? That our attention span is less than 7 seconds. Someone did a PhD research on this a few years ago. It's now a 3.5-second rule. And you can test it. Next time you're watching an ad or a TV series, just count or do your stopwatch and work out how many times does the image change on the screen. You'll find it's on an average 3.5 seconds. Mind you, there have been some movies recently that have totally blown that out for artistic reasons. In fact, those of you who are with me live, if you go to the chat, see if you can type in the name of a movie that has totally blown that. In fact, I can think of some movies now where virtually a whole scene, if not the whole movie, has looked like it's been just with one camera angle the whole time. That'll be interesting. Oh, there you go. Kim has got there straight away, 1917. The movie 1917 wasn't actually one scene, if you go and look at the making of it, but they've made it look as though it is. So for artistic reasons, it's like it's one camera following the actors the the whole movie, which is pretty amazing. Totally blows that theory of 7 seconds out of the water. So what I'm going to do here is I've got my background.
Oh, hello, it's Dr. Applesmith here. And
I'm thinking it's always good to have some texts and titles, and most video productions do have a title or a text, or even, I won't say closed captions, because that's another feature that we can have to get that all happened automatically with AI to get the captioning in. So what we're going to do is just get maybe the word video appearing, or video production. And so I'm going to go to my text tool. I'm going to go to add text and just type in the word video. And this works just like with other parts of Adobe Express, where I can move it around the screen. I can change the font, change the style. I can even bring in drop shadows. Go to the effects tool and bring in like a drop shadow to help it stand out even more. Maybe color the drop shadow something a bit lighter so it really pops out. We can even use the Gen AI tool, which is generate text effects. And if I click on the little pencil tool, I could put in a prompt here to make my font made out of an image that I prompt, something like, I don't know, cameras. I'm going to type in cameras, and let's see, as I click enter, it's thinking about it. And my whole word video should be made out of little cameras. Let's make it bigger so we can see those. There we go. Well, it's a bit hard to see it. You'd have to zoom. I might just zoom right out. There you go. You can see the cameras now that I've zoomed out. That looks pretty cool, actually. I quite like that. I'm going to make that bigger and then move it down. One of the other golden rules in video production is to never put text over an eye. So just moving it away from the face, probably not ideal there, but with the drop shadow, it kind of works. Now, I don't want the word video to appear at the start of the scene. I want it to appear when Dr. Applesmith mentions the word video. So let's see when that happens.
oh, hello, it's Dr. Applesmith here. And did you know that video...
All right, so just at this point, I'll take the playhead back a little bit, and I'm going to move that layer and drag it or scrub it through to that point so that hopefully I've got the timing perfect. Let's find out.
Did you know that video...
Yeah, that's almost perfect. That's great. Now, I could have it just appearing, but it's often better, especially with the video production, to have it animating in. So by going out of my text effects and moving from edit where I was originally, and then I went into effects, but I could just jump straight to this section here called animation. And this allows me to animate it into the scene, animate it while it's in the scene, and then animate it out of the scene. And this works not just for text, any element at all. In fact, Dr. Applesmith, I could select him. I could animate him into the scene. The background I could animate in or have it moving if I wanted to. In this case, I'm just going to click in and I'm going to hover over that. That looks pretty cool. That's a fade. There's a typewriter effect. There's a bungee effect, a drift. Oh, the drift looks good. In fact, I'm going to select the drift. And then when you click it a second time, you get to play with it. I'm going to make it drift a bit quicker. There we go. And I'm going to make it maybe drift from the top down, from the bottom up, and start outside the page. Yeah, I like that. So now when I take my playhead back a little bit, hit the play button.
Did you know that video is actually a really great way of communicating?
Good. So there's the start of my story, and I'm pretty happy with that. What's missing now, though, is music. So I'm going to go back to my media tool to get back into Adobe stock. Choose the audio tab, and there's a new feature now called ideas based on your file. I've never been happy with it. I'm going to try it. I might be happy with it now. It's suggesting some music that might be good for this story. Let's just preview this one. See what I mean? I mean, that might be appropriate for some people. Let's try this one. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I don't know where they get their algorithms from. That just freaks me out. I could go view all and test them all. Otherwise, there's a whole bunch of sound effects. And in fact, there are thousands of sound effects that I could work with. If I go view all, there are categories of sound effects. There's ambient sound effects, transition sound effects, user interface sound effects. There's so many sound effects. But all I'm looking for is just a nice soundtrack. So I'm going to go past sound effects to acoustic, background, blues, brass, classical, country, dance, electronic, film, hip hop, so many different options. I'm just going to try this jazz one. Yeah. It could work. Cool, I like that. So once you've found a song that you like, you then stop previewing it and you click next to the preview button anywhere in that tile, and then it comes into the timeline. I always recommend when you've got a character in your story to bring your sound down to about 30%. And then I also probably recommend fading it in and fading it out. It's a nice effect to have as well. So now when we play what we've got so far.
Oh, hello, it's Dr. Applesmith here, and did you know that video is actually a really great way of communicating?
So there you go. So that's the basics of using Adobe Express as a video editing tool. And for most teachers and students out there, it's pretty much all they really need because it does all the basics. Yet there are some limitations to it. So let me show you how to, well, before I do, I'm going to just quickly download this. I'm going to go up to the download button, download it as an MP4 video. What I could do is I could go to the share button and share it as a link. I could put it in the chat and then you would see the video as a link and sharing it online. But while that's downloading, I'm going to jump into Adobe Premiere Pro. Adobe Premiere Pro is the industry standard. My favorite tool, as I mentioned earlier. I'm literally opening up from scratch because there's something I wanted to show you as it opens up. I'm going to bring up into the share screen, bring up the right one. There we go. This is what it looks like when you're in Premiere Pro and you've already done a few projects. You can see all my recent projects are sitting there. The reason I wanted to bring this up, especially if you're brand new to Adobe Premiere Pro, is that there's a Learn button. And this is wonderful. Whenever you see the Learn button in any of our Adobe applications, you know what it does. It takes you to the Adobe Help Center, which is a catalog of lots of tutorials. Now you can go to help.adobe.com. That's the online way of getting to the Help Center, and then find the Premiere Pro section, and you can do it that way. But it's much easier just to access these tutorials from the app itself. So anytime you see the Learn button, that's a great way to learn more. It helps you to get started into the app. It helps you to become masters in the app and learn lots and lots of things. And new features are done. This is the new AI feature, which has become part of Premiere Pro. The new Firefly in Premiere Pro, where you can actually prompt and get a 5-second video that you can bring in based on a prompt using Gen AI. It's just incredible, the technology. That's now built into Premiere Pro. You can even extend a scene, and these little tutorials explain and show you how to do it. But for the time that we've got, all I wanted to do is to show you what a product looks like when it's finished or when you're well and truly into it. So I'm going to go back to home here, and I'm going to open up a project that I've been working on for Australian Independent Schools, Western Australia, actually. So this is a project which is halfway through, or nearly finished. Now, I've just realized I've got my screens set up so that you can see the whole project. What I want you to see is the actual timeline. So just bear with me for a second while I remember how to get that into a different mode. Molly, while I'm doing that, is there anything in the chat that we need to address?
No, just a lot of people putting in some examples there of full-length features that use long take or one shot. I know there's a couple, but I can't remember their names.
So
there was
what
one
are
recently
they?
with Woody Harrelson. Anyway.
Okay, yeah. And so what are the ones that they've suggested?
No, we've got Erin saying that. She said, I can't think of any full-length features that use long shots, but a lot of action movies now do it to heighten the tension in scenes. So Daredevil or Extraction. It's got Sam Hargrave uses them to great effect. 21 minutes.
Wow, that's awesome. And that's very true. One that comes to mind is Birdman. Yeah, that was a classic. Virtually the whole film was done with one camera right up until the very end. The last few minutes, I think, went to a normal sort of cutting sequence. But then one that comes to mind is the James Bond film Spectre. The first scene in Mexico City. Yeah, that's all with one camera. So clever the way they did all that. But anyway, let's not digress because we're running low in time. This is what Premiere Pro looks like. It is intimidating. It is, and I must admit, it's taken me a while to actually learn how to use it, but I use it regularly now, and I started teaching it for years ago. It was 2011 when Final Cut made the change, and I made the change to Premiere Pro around that time. I was a Final Cut user. Apple Final Cut was the industry standard, and I loved it, and it was very similar to this. And then suddenly Apple decided to make Final Cut more like iMovie, and all the professional video editors said, what's going on? And they started to drift to Premiere Pro, which, as I said in that clip, wasn't as good as Final Cut back then, but now, it's amazing. It's so good. So this project here, I want to show you the timeline. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see all the different layers that I've got in this project. By default, you get 3 video layers and 3 audio layers. You can see V1, V2, V3, and A1, A2, A3. There's video layers and audio layers. Now, with this particular project, I've gone to a bit of extreme. I've got actually 22 layers of video at one point. In fact, that's at the 1 minute 34 seconds. Suddenly I'm into 22 layers of video. So let's see what that actually looks like. If I bring that timeline down a bit, and let's see what 22 layers as I hit the play button. Tools for sharing stories through video, animation, podcasting, and audio production. You're about to see such as Premiere Pro, Animate, Character Animator, After Effects, Audition, Adobe Podcast, and Adobe Express. And if I pause here, you can count every one of these different elements, whether it's text or an image, including myself in the background, is all a separate layer. And that's how complicated it can get to be manipulating and working with. But in saying that, it also shows you the power and that you can have so much detail and so much control over your actual production. So in this production, on my video layer 1, if I just highlight that there, where you can see I've got my background, then I've got various cuts of the background, and I've got some other background. So it's usually based around whatever the background is. And then my audio layers, well, one of them would be the audio coming from the footage, one would be the music, one might be some sound effects, and a combination. So in this case, I've only got 4 layers, or at any one time, really only 2 or 3 layers of audio, but lots of layers of video. And it's like doing a jigsaw puzzle. You're literally doing one piece at a time. In fact, what I might do, so I don't muck up what I'm working with here, I've got another sequence here, which isn't as important. What I'm going to do, let's say I finish this little sequence. This was one part of that story that I just wanted to concentrate on. So I was working on that as a separate sequence. I'm going to go back to my project, and I'm going to bring into my footage the video that I just created with Adobe Express before. Now look at all my footage. If I show you what the project looks like, if I go into the project folder, you can see it's really a series of what we call bins or folders. There's a bin for all the audio, there's a bin for all the footage, there's a bin for all the still images. And if I open up the footage bin, you can see I've even got a bin dedicated to just the studio footage. So if I double click that bit of studio footage, you can see there's me in my studio at home with just a green piece of cloth that I use. It doesn't have to be a proper TV studio, and that's all I use. And I use some of the filters. In fact, you can see the cloth that's around my teleprompt, so you can see how amateur it is. But in reality, it looks really good when you're using Premiere Pro and the various filters to bring it all in. So what I'm going to do just very quickly is I'm going to add some footage to my footage folder by going import and downloads, and I'm going to find my Animate Characters project, which is here. I'm going to open it up, and there it is. That's what we just built with Adobe Express. And I'm going to not bring the whole thing in. I'm going to set up an in point and an out point. Just before Dr. Applesmith talks is going to be my in point. I'm going to click I on the keyboard, and then just as he finishes, scrub towards the end, communicating. I'm going to set that up as an out point. In, out, and then drag. And now what's happening is I'm dragging that bit of footage into my timeline, and I'll just bring it in so it joins the end of whatever I've got here. Just make sure I can do a right click and a ripple delete, then I get a perfect join. And if I do a right click in between those two bits of edit, I can apply a default transition, which in this case would be a cross dissolve. So now when I hit the space bar, fashion industry.
Oh, hello, it's Dr. Applesmith here.
You can see I'm going from one part of the project into what I've just created fairly seamlessly, and then I can add other content on top of that, add other audio on top of that. There's no limit to what you can do with Adobe Premiere Pro. Now, I know there's a lot there, and if you want to learn more about Adobe Premiere Pro, I have got some resources for you. Because a couple of years ago, what I did was I created these Adobe Pro tips for students. And Molly, if you could put that link into the chat. These are all sitting on my Vimeo channel, and this one here is Adobe Pro Tips for Students, Premiere Pro Part 1. And that goes through some of the basics of Premiere Pro and how to get started. And then we've got a 30-minute, both of them about 30 minutes, Adobe Pro Tips for Students Premiere Pro Part 2, which jumps into some of the more complicated things like how to do chroma key and so on. So with those two 30-minute tutorials, you could literally create almost anything, and it really does show you how to master Adobe Premiere Pro. Obviously, we haven't got time in a 45-minute webinar to do that, but with these detailed tutorials, that could be very helpful. Otherwise, you've got that learn button in the app to be able to learn these tutorials as we go as well. Now, we're just about at time. Molly, is there anything in the chat I need to address?
No, it's been quiet on the chat today in terms of questions, that is, for you.
Out of the 14 people outside of you and me, Molly, go to the chat now, folks. Just give us an idea. How many of you have actually used Adobe Express before to create a video? Quick little action research here. Just give us a yes or a no. Have you used Adobe Express to create a video before? And let's count. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, someone's just used Pro. There you go. 7. So around about half of the people that are with us have, or just under half, have actually used Adobe Express. So I'm encouraging the rest of you to have a play with it, and more importantly, share it with your students. I've also created a bunch of tutorials to help them. And Molly, if you can share this into the chat. This link here, adobe.ly/new-express-APAC, that explains everything that I just taught you earlier and a whole lot more about Adobe Express with a big focus on the video side. So that could be very helpful. I know many of you have already got access to this resource because we recently hit over our 800 hits mark with this particular resource. So it's wonderful to see how this is being used in schools around this part of the world. All right. Erin's saying very non-denominational when it comes to my video tools. There you go. And Claire's saying just Adobe Pro, but Express looks helpful. Yeah, Claire, like I'm obviously a pro user, but I love using Adobe Express just to get content done really quickly. And then I bring it into Premiere Pro later on. And I find that is a nice workflow to go with. So whether you're a pro user or whether you're not a pro user at all, both of these apps are very helpful for you and to encourage your students to work with as well. Let's share a few more resources before we close this particular webinar. This resource here, and Molly's going to put the link into the chat, and I'm going to click on the link when I see it because I actually want to jump into this resource and share it with you because I want you to be sharing this resource with your colleagues, particularly in a K-12 context. So this is the K-12 section of our Adobe for Education ANZ website, where we promote these webinars, obviously. We promote the tutorials that I mentioned from Adobe Express. We have a way of linking in and getting you to do your micro-credential courses. And I know many of you have already done level 1 and level 2. Some of you are already in our leadership program, which is wonderful. But if you haven't joined that program, that gives you more information about how to join. And our newsletter, which comes out once a month, information on that. And then most importantly at this point, we've got a new conference coming up on the 2nd of October. So let me jump back to my slides so we can show you the QR code here. And Molly's thrown in the link already. This QR code and link will take you to information about our Adobe Educators Conference. Quite a few of the people who are with us live at the moment are actually going to be presenting at this conference because they're ACE leaders. They've put their submissions in. Next week is one of my jobs next week is to organise all of that and say yes or no. Sadly, I'm going to have to say no to a few because we only have limited numbers of workshop opportunities, and we've had so many people put in. But, you know, that's all part of the fun, I guess, and the fact that people want to share what they know. We're offering this for K-12 and higher ed. It's all virtual, so we're not going to get those issues that we did last year when we did this as a hybrid event in Sydney and Melbourne, where we were so focused on the live audience, the people that were with us face-to-face. On occasions, we tended to neglect some of the workshops, and some of them didn't actually happen, and people were just left hanging, and we were very apologetic about that. But when you're doing a hybrid event, these things happen. So that won't happen this time because it's all virtual. And I'm very excited to let you know that we're going to get quite a few from Southeast Asia joining us. There's a lot of interest in the Philippines and in Singapore. We're already getting registrations from Singapore teachers who are registering for our plenary sessions, which are now available to register into. It's just the workshops that you'll find out more about, probably in about 2 weeks' time by the time we process them all. Molly, is there anything else we need to share about the conference?
No, that's it. All I can say is it's already shaping up to be an amazing event, as always. And the presenters and the content, and we'll have that K-12 and that higher ed stream and some fantastic keynotes as well. So not to be missed. What's it called? Favorite? I was going to say Facebook. Favorite the event site, and you can keep checking back in for those registrations. And we'll also send out an ADM for everyone to register for all the sessions. But you can register now, like Tim said, for the opening and closing plenaries.
Excellent. All right, we're going to close this webinar now with our official video, which does have the feedback link for us, which Molly's going to throw into the chat as well. Thank you very much for those who joined us live. Once we stop the recording, hang around if you like. We do have a meeting with a number of our ACE leaders starting in 10 minutes, so we can't hang around too long. But thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful week. We'll see you at the next one. Thank you for being part of this webinar from the ANZ Adobe Education Team. While you complete the feedback form via this QR code or link, note that this weekly webinar series is just one of a range of free events and resources managed by the ANZ Adobe Education Team. More information is available on the ANZ Adobe for Education site via adobeanzedu.com. and more specifically for K-12 teachers via adobe.ly/ANZ-K12-PL. Thanks again for being involved in this webinar. We look forward to seeing you at the next event. Keep being creative.